Hey, this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. Well, if you're trying to rely on your doctor alone to get yourself healthy, you're probably on a fool's errand. Because, the American Medical System is really great at allopathic medicine. They can take care of acute injuries very well. If you got a broken leg, appendicitis problem, cancer, whatever, they're pretty darn good at fixing that type of stuff. But as far as getting you healthy and how to prevent things from happening, frankly, they suck, and it's just not going to improve because, when you ask your doctor, geez, how do I lose weight? His advice is probably going to be something to the effect of eat more whole grains, eat less, move more. Why is that going to happen? Because it's based on studies that have come out and things that they heard in medical school, but frankly, it's not based on their own experience. And the medical schools, the way they teach doctors, is they do not talk much about root causes of diseases. They are going to be talking about, particular treatment plans and drugs and stuff, but they're not going to be talking so much about how to get healthy. That part is on your own. And what I think is really important and why so many people in the low carb community want to try to find doctors who are low carb themselves is because those doctors have experience. There are a handful of doctors that really have gone out and have figured out, they've had health problems themselves. In the social media world, people like Dr. Ken Berry or Dr. Phil Avadia or Sean Baker have had health issues that they helped reverse through diet and lifestyle. And, when, like Dr. Berry, I love some of his stories, when he talks about, when he found himself to be overweight and pre-diabetic, and he started following his own advice, the advice that had been given his patients for years, and it didn't work. I mean, he's jumping on the treadmill, he's eating lots of whole grains, he's doing what he'd been telling his patients to do, and it flat out doesn't work. And he had to re-look at everything. And he found Dr. Atkins' book and some other sources, and he started re-looking at things. And he put it into experience, and he was able to change his own health. And, after a year or so of, looking better and feeling better, patients started asking him, "Doc, what are you doing?" And he would share it with a handful of patients, and they started incorporating these changes, and they worked, and that gave them confidence to share it with other people. And it's medicine is kind of a closed loop system where, you really do want doctors that are going to follow a standard of care because you just don't want people to be coming up with really stupid ideas that could have negative effects on people's health. So they're very cautionary and usually very conservative before they recommend anything. And they're always going to follow studies, and particularly from places like Harvard. Well, if you get, that type of advice from the people at Harvard, frankly, health studies are really hard to do, if not impossible. There will never be a study that shows us what the perfect human diet is, because that would require twin studies where you'd lock up twins in metabolic wards, basically in prison, and you'd keep them there for life, and you want to see who's going to live the longest. And that can't be done. It's unethical. So, all we can do is really rely on our own experience and see what works. And that's really the best type of doctor that you really want. And where I think medicine is going to go is, with health coaches working in conjunction with medical practices. Because frankly, if you go to the doctor nowadays, you'll notice that they very rarely look at you. They are looking at their computer screen. It's because these doctors are employees. And very few doctors actually work for themselves. They actually work for rather large corporations or medical practices or systems. And when they're doing that, they've got so much time per patient, and they've got to check off so many boxes on their computer, and it's not really working toward your overall health. And what we're seeing with these health coaches is these are people that have actually made lifestyle changes for themselves and can share their experience, strength, and hope with other people, plus medical knowledge that are going to help augment and hopefully be able to start getting people healthier. And the question mark is, and I'm really wondering, if this practice takes off, how long major medical systems are going to want health coaches wandering around who are going to be able to who are going to be taking people out of the medical system, because frankly, patients healed are customers lost as far as they're concerned. And Big Pharma isn't going to be real happy about it either, because when you teach people how to actually eat correctly, if you follow the American Medical Association advice when it comes to hypertension, they will recommend the DASH diet, the dietary approach to reverse hypertension. Very few doctors realize that this was tested against a low-carb approach. And the low-carb approach actually significantly reduced blood pressure. DASH diet was only able to change blood pressure maybe 5 to 10 points, and was always very hard as far as compliance is concerned, because it's a horribly bland diet that's really based on a low-salt approach. Very few people like that diet, but it was the only game in town for a long time, and very few people know that the low-carb approach actually significantly lowered blood pressure more than the DASH diet does. But with really good health coaches, they could, but frankly, very few people in the medical profession want to take you off of blood pressure medications dependence upon the medical system. And if you can solve your problem through a simple diet and lifestyle change, and not need drugs and not need to see your doctor, frankly, you're a customer lost. And that's kind of the sick system that we have, and there's no real incentives built into it for getting you healthier. This is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. I try to put out a couple messages each week. If you like this message, please hit like and subscribe. Join this channel of other like-minded folks who are trying to get healthier, because remember, in this fight for your health, you are all alone. But we can all be alone in this together. And if you're going to make a decision, whether what type of approach you're going to take to get healthier, you can look at studies, or you can look at people's experience and see what works. I will try to talk to you later.